You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 23. This week on the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, we're talking duck calling strategies with three-time world live duck calling champion Trevor Shannahan, and we're going to continue with our duck profile segment and feature the Blue-Winged Teal. All right, welcome to this week's episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We appreciate you making some time and including us in part of your day. And joining me on the show this week, as he always does, is my good friend Dan Harushka. Danimal, how you doing, bub?
I'm doing well. And you know, when you were talking there, I was thinking about what I was going to say, and I don't know why it popped into my head. I guess because I always say I'm doing well, but you know, I used to get some pretty bad headaches, and I wasn't always sure why. And I think I read somewhere that I think it's like 90% of headaches is caused by being dehydrated. And I kind of make it a point to drink, you know, quite a bit of water anymore these days. And I rarely have headaches. So I'm doing well and I don't get a lot of headaches. So there you go.
That's the most random thing I've heard all day. I'm glad to hear that you're no longer having headaches, and I appreciate the public service announcement.
There you go.
This is a great week for the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We're going to cover a topic that we get tons and tons and tons of questions about, and something that we've probably put off a little longer than we should have to tackle. But this week we are going to get into it with duck calling strategies with Trevor Shannahan, who is an accomplished competitive caller, 3-time world live duck calling champion. Runs Black Timber Custom Calls, has worked for Lynch Mob Calls in the past. He's been, he's on the Eastern Shore of Maryland where we like to hunt. Really knowledgeable guy, knows how to handle a call. So we're going to talk with him about duck calling tips and strategies and some techniques that we're definitely going to be beneficial to everyone. And then we're going to follow up last week's Green-Winged Teal duck profile with the Blue-Winged Teal duck profile. If you'd like to interact with us here at the show, you can do so via the HP Outdoors Waterfowl hotline, 724-609-FOWL, 724-609-3695. You can also check us out at hpoutdoors.com or send us an email to info@hpoutdoors.com. You can check all the older episodes we have as well as all the new ones. If you want to subscribe via iTunes, they'll automatically get pushed out to your cell phone or your tablet every week, and you can keep up with us. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram are all good places to catch us as well. We've recently started an Instagram account. It's a pretty mean account, if I do say so myself. I think we put some pretty good stuff out there, Dan. I'm going to ask a favor of everyone. We haven't done this yet on the show, but our Facebook right now is hovering right around like 3,900 likes or something like that. I'd really like to see that get to 4,000 likes. So if you all could help us out a little bit in that regard and give us a share or, like the page if you haven't done so yet, we would certainly appreciate that. A couple other things we offer for you too, if you haven't had a chance to do so, is our newsletter. We send that out periodically with different information and things that you might find useful as a waterfowl hunter. So be sure to sign up for that on our webpage or through our Facebook page if you'd like to. And then if you're so inclined, we also have a listener survey that you're more than welcome to fill out and give us some feedback about the show. You can find that on our website and also our Facebook page somewhere. I believe it's on there too. So enough of the housekeeping, Dan. This week, there's a lot going on in World HP, as far as just with the show and things we've got going on. You want to share with everybody sort of the newest development with the HP?
Yeah. Sport ear, we talk about staying safe all the time. And one thing that we really haven't mentioned is your hearing. And, once it's gone, it doesn't come back. And we've partnered up with Sport Ear, which, I think they have some amazing products, leading technology in what they have. And, It's a wide range from, lower end protection to earmuffs to hearing enhancement. And, it's a great company. So, I'm glad that we have a partnership with them now. And, I'm just really excited about it.
Yeah, this is a big one for me. Most of the people who listen to this show probably don't know this, but I've had concerns about my own hearing for a long time. I'll be sitting on the couch watching TV with my wife in the evening, and it seems like it happens in the evening more times than others, but I'll just start getting ringing in my ears and things like that. And it concerns me, a lot of, people that get older in life, they lose their hearing, and it's hard to, I want to be able to hear my grandkids, and, I don't want to be having problems carrying on conversations later in life. And I know I've had this happen to me a bunch of times, and I'm sure most people listening to this show have had it happen where you're hunting in a blind or something and birds are swinging and everybody's shooting, and all of a sudden someone's barrel gets a little close to your side and it rings your eardrums and that kind of stuff. And that just does incredible damage to your hearing. I mean, just brutal on your hearing. And I try to be really, really vigilant and wear ear protection all the time when I'm hunting. But, as most people know, if you're using like a foam ear protection or something like that, and you stick it in there, if you start calling, it's all muffled and it's tough to hear and tough to know what you're doing. So I tend to kind of pull it out just a little bit so I can hear what I'm doing. And then oftentimes I don't get it back in there good and tight and, before we shoot. So I protect a little bit, but not as good as I should. Where Sport Ear comes into this for me is they offer products that allow you to block out damaging noise while still hearing conversations, running calls, that kind of stuff at the same time. And a lot of this stuff, if you look on the market, you're going to pay, thousands of dollars for this type of technology. You can pay that with Sport Ear if you want. But the best part about this company is they offer that same type of benefit, being able to hear while blocking out the damaging noise at like a $15 price point to start. That is the best $15 that you're going to spend. And I'm not just saying this because we're partnered up with them. I'm saying it because it's important. Hearing protection is that important. So we're going to have some more stuff coming down the road with Sport Ear to just kind of help educate everybody on hearing loss, ways to prevent it, hearing enhancement opportunities that their products have, that kind of stuff. So really exciting things for us here. And I think it's a really positive thing, and hopefully it sheds a little light to you all out there that probably don't wear ear protection when you're out there hunting as much as you should. So,
yeah, I was going to say you definitely should. And, the companies that we promote are companies that we use and really believe in. And Sport Ear, I've had some of their gear for a couple years now, and from hunting to cutting wood, and I'm definitely looking into the enhancement ones, step it up a little bit, and to be able to call or, just sit in a blind and talk to someone. And if it's cold out and you have gloves on and you're working calls, like, it is a lot to just think about doing because you're not used to shoving something in your ear. So to have a piece of equipment that you can keep in there, talk like this, and hear, you can hear whispers, and anything over 80 decibels is blocked out, so any gunshot you're going to be safe from. Hearing loss is definitely something people don't think about, but when you're around people that can't hear, it's pretty frustrating, and I think you don't want to be one of those people earlier than what you have to be.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something that's preventable, so I feel good about shedding light on that issue and offering opportunities to help kind of remedy the issue. So good stuff coming down the road on that front. All right, Dan. So this week we're going to build off of sort of what we covered last week with the duck profile. We featured the green-winged teal, and naturally we were going to roll right into the blue-winged teal. And much like the green wing, it offers a lot of shooting opportunities throughout the continental U.S. And teal are fun. You get a lot of opportunities in states to get after them in September. Good table fare, fast little flyers. Good fun shooting, and good table fare is always sort of a lethal combo there when you're talking ducks. So why don't we go ahead and get into this week's duck profile segment and feature the blue-winged teal.
All right, the blue-winged teal. The male comes in at about 16 inches, the female's 14, and they're about 0.8 to 1 pounds, both of them there. So the male blue-winged teal, they have a slate gray head and neck, a black-edged white crescent in front of the eyes, and a blackish crown. And the breast and sides are tan with dark brown speckles, and there's a white spot on the side of their rump. Most of the upper wing coverts are blue-gray, the secondaries form an iridescent green speculum, and the underwing is a whitish. And the bill is black, and the legs and feet are yellowish to orange. And the female blue-winged teal, they have a brownish-gray head with a darker crown and eye stripe. And the breast and sides are brown, the upper parts are olive brown, and the upper wing coverts are bluish, but they are not as vibrant as the drake. And the bill is a grayish black, and the legs and feet are dull yellow-brown. The female makes a high-pitched squeak, where the male makes a CC kind of sound. And breeding, the blue-winged teal, they breed primarily in the northern prairies and parklands of central North America. And they're quite relevant in the prairie pothole region. And nesting habitat includes wetland areas with grasslands, such as shallow marshes, sloughs, flooded ditches, temporary ponds, etc. And the females, they lay an average of 10 eggs.
Average of 10 eggs. I think that's the highest that we've covered in our duck profile segment. And that's important, and I'm going to tell you why here in just a minute. But before I get into that, the blue-winged teal is actually one of the first ducks to head south in the fall and one of the last to head north in the spring. They migrate from the prairie pothole region to areas that they winter in Florida. They winter in the Caribbean islands, Gulf Coast of Texas, Louisiana, Mexico, and Central and South America. Wintering habits for the blue-winged teal are pretty diverse. They will winter in swamps, fresh brackish water places, shallow wetlands, that kind of stuff. And in the U.S., the highest wintering densities will occur in southern Texas and north and the peninsula areas of Florida. I read Texas, Dan, and I just got hung up again because it seems like every time we read about a duck, they just thrive in Texas. So there we go again. Need to make that trip. The blue-winged teal are common to winter in Central America, Caribbean, South America, down to Peru, even northeastern Brazil. So they will put the miles on for sure. Population-wise, since 1955, the blue-winged teal populations have basically ranged from as low as 2.8 million birds all the way up to 7.4 million birds. Generally, numbers have been increasing in recent years, and due to favorable, wetland conditions and that kind of stuff. And that's basically resulted in an average population of about 6 million birds during the past 10 years or so. That was as of a 2009 U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service survey. But an interesting fact, I mentioned how they lay 10 eggs and why that's important. The blue-winged teal have the highest annual mortality rate, reaching upwards of 65% of all of the dabbling ducks. So almost 65% of the population of blue-winged teals, perishes every year. The reasons for these is, obviously hunting, but then they have a really long over-the-ocean migration. So the migration just really wears them down and is tough on them. More recent survey data has shown, as of 2013, the blue-winged teal population was at 7.7 million birds. And then 2014 survey showed at 8.5 million birds, which is up 10% from 2013 and actually 75% over the long-term average for the blue-winged teal. So phenomenal numbers there, just fantastic recovery. The blue-winged teal will dabble and feed in various vegetative aquatic plants, algae, duckweed, pondweeds, that kind of stuff, seedlings, that sort of thing, and large amounts of aquatic invertebrates found in shallow flooded wetlands. So the blue-winged teal, very resilient duck, cool little duck, and our duck profile segment for this week. Okay, Dan, we get a lot of questions about duck calling, and neither one of us are the expert on that topic, but fortunately enough for everyone listening to this show, we got a real good duck caller joining us this week. Trevor Shannahan, 3-time world live duck calling champion, tons of success on the goose stage as well. Guy just knows how to handle a call, and I've had the chance to hear Trevor call a couple different times, and I always compare it to, if you've ever been to like a an outdoor show or, like a waterfowl festival at Cabela's or something like that, you hear a lot of different calls going. You hear people trying calls and tinkering and that kind of stuff. And every once in a while, you get a guy that'll pick up a call, and it doesn't matter where you're at, if you're in earshot of it, and you hear and call, and it kind of makes you stop what you're doing. And you're like, wow, that one sounds a little different. That guy knows what the heck he's doing. That's how it always is for me when I hear Trevor put a call, out, and whether it's a goose or a duck call, it always is one of them where, instantly it just kind of catches your attention and you instantly know that he knows what the heck he's doing. So, really excited to have him come on the show and talk about some calling tips and strategies and techniques with us.
Yeah, and he's not a real old guy, and for how successful, what were you saying his numbers were as far as wins go?
Yeah, per callingducks.com, I don't know how accurate these stats are, but this is for duck calling, 65 competitive wins and 130 top 5 finishes.
And I think, what, is he 24 or 25?
Yeah,
somewhere around there?
I think something in that range, yeah.
So, that super impressive. I follow him online, Facebook, Instagram. He has some good media stuff going, and I'm excited to talk to him. We chat online a little bit, but I'm excited to sit down and ask a few questions.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a discussion that everybody listening to this show, whether you're experienced or whether this is your first season and you're just kind of getting your feet wet and calling and that kind of thing. We touch on a little bit everything. So we hope that you enjoyed the conversation with Trevor. So let's go ahead and roll into that right now and be joined by Trevor Shannahan and 3-time world live duck calling champ. All right, we are excited to welcome a special guest to the show this week. We know that you all have been waiting to hear the topic that he's going to discuss with us, and I couldn't think of a better person to talk about duck calling and duck calling strategies than 3-time world live duck calling champion, Trevor Shannahan of Black Timber Custom Calls. Trevor, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Awesome, man. We appreciate you giving us some time to come on the show and talk about duck calling tips and strategies. And, we get a lot of questions from our listeners about what to do in the field with the calls and how much to call and when to call and all that kind of stuff. So we want to tackle a lot of that with you here today. But, there's a lot of basic things I think that go into duck calling that guys either overlook or don't think is, maybe so important to know and that kind of stuff. So before we get into too much, about what to do with the call in your hand, let's talk a little bit about the different calls, that are out there on the market and that are available to guys. Maybe explain to us a little bit about the difference between a single reed and a double reed call. And then maybe, what would you recommend for someone that's, looking to purchase their first duck call and just kind of getting going, duck hunting?
Well, with the single reed, it takes a little more practice to master a single reed, but once you get it mastered, you'll get some more versatility. You'll get more range. It can be raspier. It can have more volume, but it definitely takes a little more air control. Whereas the double reed is a lot easier to control. It's easier for the beginner caller. It's raspier without learning like the proper way to put air into a call. Like if you just put air into a double reed and put air into a single reed, the double will be raspier. So when I'm recommending calls to a beginner, I kind of ask them how serious they want to get with it. If they don't want to put a lot of practice into it, I definitely recommend the double reed. It's going to be a lot more user friendly. It's just going to be easier to use and get a good duck sound out without putting a lot of practice into it. Whereas the single reed, it's going to take a little more practice. It's going to take to learn a little more air control. But if you do put the practice in, you're going to be able to get a little bit better sound out of it, and you're going to be able to get some more sounds out of it that you wouldn't be able to get out of the double.
Nice. Yeah. Before I talk about what the calls are made of, I was just personally wondering. I'm assuming that you use a single reed in your competitions.
Yes, I use a single reed contest hunting pretty much all the time. Is what I use a single reed for, because if I can get more out of the call, I just feel like it can do more for me, whether it's in a contest or hunting. not to say that you need a single reed to hunt with, but I just personally prefer one to hunt with because if I need it to do something, I know it can. Whereas with a double reed, there might be a few things that you only need maybe 1 or 2 days of season, but it's nice to be able to have them in that call to do those 1 or 2 days of season.
Nice. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about what the call is made up of. Speak to the differences a little bit between an acrylic call. You're going to get a little bit louder sound, a wood, and a lower end polycarb call, and go into those a little bit if you would.
Well, with the acrylics, generally they're going to be your most expensive calls. They have a crisper tone. They generally have a little more volume. And the biggest thing with them is they have a more consistent sound. They don't swell and contract with moisture or with temperature. They're a lot more consistent than any other material that calls are made from. And they're also really durable. They don't get abused as much as, say, a wood or a polycarb call. With the wood calls, you tend to get a little bit mellower sound, which is nice if you want a lower volume call. They tend to be a little bit raspier, but they do swell and contract and change tone with moisture and temperature, and that's the one downfall of a wood call. They sound great. They change tone a little bit, as you blow them and with temperature changes. And with the poly calls, you kind of get a sound in between. It's not as crisp as acrylic. It's not as mellow as wood. It's kind of somewhere there in between. They're very inexpensive to make, so people sell them for less money, which is they make good intro calls for a beginner caller because they don't cost as much. So you don't have to put as much investment into a call as, say, an acrylic or wood call. The one downfall of them is they do tend to haze and crack a little bit. They're a little more fragile than, say, a wood or acrylic call. But for the beginner caller, it's a great way to get their feet wet into learning how to blow a duck call. And the polys actually generally most companies tend to put an easier to blow, generally a double reed design into their poly calls.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and we always recommend a polycarb if you're just starting out, and even with some goose calls, you can start with that, and it's not a huge investment to start with, and you can, like you said, get your feet wet. But moving on, I'm going to ask you, because Josh always says that this is my baby, so when it comes to calling, you're a 3-time World Live duck caller. How important is motion in your spread to you? And, if the calling isn't happening, how much do you depend on the motion?
Man, I got to tell you, even as a contest caller, I'm big on calling and everything, but in duck and goose calling alike, I think motion is key. I'm from the Eastern Shore of Maryland. I'm a big time goose hunter. I love duck calling. I love duck hunting, but goose hunting is my life around here because that's what we do around here. We're goose hunters. And, in goose hunting, a flag. I'd rather have a flag than a call any day. Give me a flag and I can kill geese any day. But with duck hunting, to me, it's the same. A jerk cord is invaluable to me. Duck calling, it's great. You can make some ducks come down that you don't want to, but finishing ducks to me is more about motion than calling. Breaking ducks is a lot about calling. But when you pair that with motion to finish ducks, that jerk cord is a great asset to anybody's repertoire of hunting, gadgets and whatever you want to call it. And spinning wing decoys, as much hate as there is, they break ducks good and they finish ducks well. Later in the season, I like to play with the remotes a little bit. I like to break ducks with them, turn them off, and then when ducks are about to finish up, turn them back on, and they suck right into them. But early season, you can just leave them running the entire time. But a jerk cord to me is one of the most underrated things when it comes to having in your arsenal of duck hunting tools.
You know, Trevor, I tell Dan that question is his baby because literally everyone that we talk to, he asked that question to. So it's sort of an inside joke. I mean, I'm not kidding. I caught him walking down the road asking people about that when we were up on the shore for our hunt. So he's a little over the top with that question. No, I'm kidding. But no, we talk about motion all the time. And, you know, Dan and I are from Pennsylvania and he still hunts there primarily. And, you're not actually allowed to use motorized decoys in Pennsylvania. It's one of those, you know, communist states, I guess, that doesn't allow it. And so, you know, you got to get creative, jerk strings, that kind of stuff, flags, all that. So that's very near and dear to us as well. But getting back to the calling, you know, this question that I'm going to ask you here is probably the biggest one that our listeners have when they, you know, reach out to us for, you know, for questions and things. And it has to deal with sort of just like the various types of sounds and the basic calls that you can make with the, you know, the call in the field and sort of how to use them and when to use them. That's kind of the magic thing. It's, you know, it's sort of like, you know, when you're calling anything, turkeys, whatever it is, it's sort of like trying to figure out what to use, when to use, cadence, pitch, tone, all that kind of stuff. But if you could walk us through some of maybe just the basic sounds that you're going to put into the duck call and, you know, sort of explain the conditions or the situation where that call might be effective.
Well, I mean, I guess the most common one that you're going to use would be your greeting, and it's really just kind of used to get the duck's attention, and it kind of sounds a little bit like this. I'm just going to blow the call a little bit and just do one little string of greeting.
I like it.
And this is just used to get the duck's attention, and it sounds a little something like this. And that's kind of just, you know, emulating a duck just kind of relaxed on the water. Just it saw a duck out in the distance and it's saying, hey, you know, we're here. You know, and that generally will get the duck's attention. Well, when I get them working to me, I'll just do that maybe once every 5 seconds or so. And, you know, normally I can just run that right to the water. Every 5 seconds or so, those ducks will finish up. And the biggest thing is hitting the ducks on the corner. If they're coming at you, just be quiet. You don't really need to do anything if you're going to do anything. I do a little bit of feeding call. And with the feeding call, to me, it's just a confidence call. It's just saying, you know, we're here, we're content, there's some food here, and, you know, that just sounds a little bit something like this. You know, if you have some ducks working, you don't want to be too loud, too aggressive with it. You just want it to kind of sound nice and relaxed, like there's some ducks sitting there feeding on some good corn or some rice or, you know, whatever's in there, and it sounds a little something like that. Just nice and relaxed, just tick, 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 tick. And, you know, if you have birds leave you, you know, something flared them or something, you hit them with a little comeback call. And what that comeback call is it's basically the greeting. It's a little more demanding. It's telling these ducks, hey, get back here. You know, and it just sounds a little something like this, a little bit faster paced, a little more aggressive, and it sounds like this. And I mean, really, those are the biggest three things calling to me, and it's just about hitting ducks on the corner. Once you break them to you, if they swing, let them get 50, 60 yards out, then hit them with that greeting call again. Normally, they'll break right back around, and they won't take as wide of a swing. Let them get 40 yards out, hit them with the greeting call. Normally, they'll break back around, you know, and generally, if within 3 or 4 swings they don't do it, they're probably not going to do it. And that's just the cold hard truth about it is, you know, if they circle you more than 4 times, they probably know what the gig is, and they're going to leave at some point in time before you get a shot at them.
Yeah, I think you're probably dead on with that. And, you know, I often wonder, you when I've got birds working, or when where we hunt in Virginia, we've got blind laws that basically restrict you from being closer than 500 yards to another blind on the river. So, you get to actually watch other groups work birds, and you hear their calling and that kind of stuff. And it always just amazes me how these guys just lay it on them, every time these birds circle. It's always interesting to see. And it's actually caused me to almost virtually not call at all on the river. It just seems like motion is a more effective way to try to bring birds in. But that gets a little bit to my next question for you. So you talked about the different calls that you're, and demonstrated a few of them for us, and talked about when you're using those. How does your approach to those types of calls change as the season goes on? So, obviously, these birds are coming down the flyway, they're seeing decoys, they're hearing calls, all that kind of stuff. Does your calling and your approach change as the season goes on? You talked about the spinning decoys where you mess with the remotes a little bit in the later season and that kind of thing. How do you mess with it and change it when you get late in the season when it comes to your calling techniques?
Well, to be honest, my calling changes really day to day. I try to slow call in the beginning of the day, whether it's ducks or geese. I try to slow call beginning of the day. If that's not working, I get a little more aggressive, and I just kind of ramp it up until something works. It's a day-to-day thing. It's not necessarily, late season versus, early season. There's days in the early season where no calling works great. Just purely relying on motion, where there's some days in late season where you got to hammer birds all the way until it's finished. So it's kind of a day-to-day basis reading the bird. I play motion a lot more. Later season, I'll use motion more to my advantage, than changing my calling tactic. Especially with mojos, because I feel like ducks get real wary to spinning wing decoys. And if you're going to use one, I feel like you need to play the remote. And that's what I call it, playing the remote. You turn it on and off, and you play with when it's spinning. But then I also feel like if you're going to use them and leave them on, put, 5, 6 out, something they're not used to seeing. It's all about being different than what everybody else on the flyway has done. And that's what I try to tell people. Either you got to play the remote with one, or you got to have 5 or more, with the spinning wing decoys. And I feel like that's the biggest change that comes with later season ducks.
Yeah, I think the versatility and having a bunch of tools in the bag are definitely the best option when it comes to that. Pull out all the tricks if needed. And this next question, I kind of thought about it from being down on the Eastern Shore, and up here we don't have. We get some good duck flights, but we're sitting down there and there's just, a knot of 1,500, maybe 2,000 mallards and black ducks came through. And I'm just looking at it and I was like, man, that's just awesome because, we just don't see it around here that much. So when you're calling, how does your approach change when you're calling to a huge flock like that, trying to break some off, compared to a group of, maybe say 6 or 7 ducks, and then tone that down into maybe a pair of ducks? Do you have a different approach when it comes to those?
Well, I can start off with saying I wish I had those farms that had the big groups of ducks coming in on the Eastern Shore. My hunt club tends to it generates better goose hunting than duck hunting. Let's just say that. But I do a lot of hunting down in Arkansas, which is known for its duck hunting. I hunt up in Canada quite a bit. So I've learned my duck calling in spots that that have a good amount of ducks. Even though I don't get quite the good duck hunting up here on the Eastern Shore as some other people have. But with the larger flocks, I just found you can be more aggressive. You can hit the ducks harder. You can work them a little more than with the singles and doubles. I tell you, with the singles and pairs, more spacing to me is key. You call to them, let them call back to you. You call back to them. There's more spacing in your calling when you have smaller groups of birds than, say, maybe you got a group of 50 to 100 mallards working you, where you can afford to be a little more aggressive with them. And that's the biggest thing that I've found. You can just be more aggressive. You can call more to the bigger groups.
Nice, and just get a little more personal with those singles and doubles. It's a great point. And you talked about Canada and Arkansas. So, you hunt over water, you hunt fields, you hunt timber. Break those down a little bit. How do your techniques differ in those situations?
I mean, personally, me, ducks are ducks, no matter where they're going. I tend to work ducks the same. Now, in the true timber, I don't have a lot of experience hunting true timber, like Arkansas deep timber where there's holes and everything. But in the true timber, there's a hole in the timber. You got to work them down in that hole. So your swings aren't as wide as they would be in a field, or like a creek bed or whatever, where things hit there and swing real wide. You got real tighter swings. You need to break them down and break them down quick, in the true timber. Where out in the fields, you can let them get a little wider. Like out in the fields, I like to get them about 60 yards out. Well, if you get them 60 yards out in the timber, you've lost them. They're gone. They're not coming back. And that, that's the biggest difference. You gotta break them a little quicker in the timber, than the fields. But other than that, that's about the only difference that I see in calling them.
Trevor, let me ask you a question really quickly that just kind of popped into my mind. You read, in the Cabela's magazines and all these places where they advertise calls, and you see calls that are, timber calls, and you see calls that are, open water calls or whatever they want to call them. I mean, what's the difference between the two?
Well, the conventional idea on a timber call is that it's quiet. It's a low volume, soft call. And the open water is a loud, high volume call. But the guys who are effective day in and day out on high pressured Arkansas publicly in timber are blowing cutdale mulch. And those are some of the loudest calls ever made. So it's kind of odd that the conventional name timber is a low volume call, where super effective calls in the timber are actually loud calls. It's just a little bit confusing. But there is a time and place for those lower volume calls. And actually, I think it's more on like creeks, which is kind of what I hunt. And I still blow a louder call, but I try and tone it down. I try and not blow it as loud as it possibly can. Because I hunt with one goose call and one duck call. That's all that's on my lanyard. So I try and tone that call down just a little bit, and being a single read, it can tone down, pretty quiet. But, I feel like the lower volumes are good for creeks, backed up against the wood, like a little pond backed up against the wood. But I feel like in that timber, especially public timber, the louder you can be, you still have to have a good duck tone to your call, but the louder that you can be, the more effective you'll be, because you can demand ducks off of other people hunting a hole, say maybe 300 yards away from you.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense too, because, when you're hunting in the timber, naturally the birds just can't quite see you as well as they might be able to see your spread, sit on a pond or something like that. So, you got to use more of that, the calling to get them in to where they can get close enough to see the ducks and, your spread and help you pull them the rest of the way in. But, I think it's confusing to a lot of people. And I know it, by just looking at it and all that kind of stuff, I think it is something that, would get guys kind of misled a little bit from time to time. So I'm glad you clarified that. Along the same lines, I've got, this is a question probably that I ask about everybody that we talk to, but I think it's a valid one and worth asking. what are some common mistakes that you're seeing people make, when they're calling to ducks? And I'm going to ask you just to take it a little step further because, of your ability to manipulate a duck call in the way that you can. So I'm going to make it a two-parter on you. One, what are the common mistakes you see guys in hunting situations as far as calling to ducks? And then two, what are some common mistakes that you see, not only beginners, but, people that have blown calls for a while, mistakes that they make mechanically or other ways that they limit themselves on a call? Guys talk about if you can't get the fundamentals down, it's going to make it really hard for you to progress to more complex and more, sophisticated notes and sequences and things down the road. So maybe some of the things that you see guys doing with calls that kind of prevent them from, elevating themselves to the level where maybe they'd be more comfortable on a single read or something like that.
Well, to get to your first point, I think the biggest thing with hunting-wise, what I see people do wrong is not, when I talk about letting ducks hit the corners, guys they'll have ducks turn away from them, and they'll hit them before they get wide enough on the corners. Like I said, you need to let a bird, especially if a bird's high, you need to let it get 60, 70 yards out before you hit it to make it break. So it gives it time to drop some altitude before it comes back down to you. And that's one of the biggest things. Like a lot of guys, a duck will turn and they want to hit it. Well, if you hit it, it'll turn right back to you, but it doesn't have any time to swing. So it doesn't have any time to drop. So that's going to make it take an extra swing and an extra look at you that it didn't need to take. So you need to let it get out wide, hit it when it's 60, 70 yards out if it's high, and so it has time to drop down on the next swing. Another big thing is calling when the ducks are coming to you, and a lot of people say, you're blowing the ducks out. If a duck's coming at you, you don't need to be calling any more than what we talked about with the feed call, just a little confidence call, just to keep them something online. And when they get straight over the top, I don't like calling at all when they get straight over the top. I let them get over top. They get about 10 yards out, I'll go ahead and hit a little bit of feed call just to, keep the confidence up. When they get, 50 yards out, hit them with that Greek call again. That's another big thing is just blowing when the ducks are coming straight at you. To me, that's one of the biggest no-nos. And then another thing that it doesn't always hurt you, but there's times where it will, and it's finessing ducks. And by finessing ducks, I mean not having any demand to your duck calling. There's something to be said for sounding like a duck, for being gentle and not blowing ducks out. But 9 times out of 10, I find that being a power duck caller actually leads to better success than being a finesse duck caller. And by that, I mean you're demanding ducks to come down to you, not asking them. You're not pleading with them. You want to demand them. You want to tell them to come to you. And that's when I talk about the greeter or the comeback, it's not a, it's a, you're telling those ducks, hey, we're down here. Get your butts down here. you know what I'm saying? And that's the biggest thing to me is powering ducks to come down to you and not finessing them down to you. And to your second point, one of the bigger things is puffing your cheeks out. That's one of the worst mechanics you can do, because it doesn't force the air into the call the correct way. And another thing is what I call forward pressure. It's where you're just blowing straight air into the call. You're not opening your throat up. And what it does is it puts air into the call too fast, makes it high pitched, and makes it kind of flat. Where you want to blow a call like you're fogging a mirror up. You want to go, You don't want to go, you don't want to put straight air into it. You want to kind of puff into it almost like you're trying to fog up a mirror with that air from down in your diaphragm, hot air, fogging up the mirror kind of air. And those are the two biggest things that I find that people have mechanically wrong, and that are a real easy fix.
Yeah, it's funny because you hear a lot of guys the first time they pick up a duck or a goose call or whatever, and they blow into it, not having any idea what they're supposed to be doing. It kind of sounds like a kazoo, and and it just surprises me how many guys you'll see, weeks or months down the road, and they still don't have their call or their lanyard out when you're hunting. And they break it out and they blow into it, and it's the same noise. Like, it's just like there wasn't any kind of progression there. And, I think exactly what you're talking about is one of the biggest things. It's just that basic air presentation, from the diaphragm, the warm air, the fogging of the mirror, that kind of stuff, for whatever reason, gets missed by a lot of guys. And, like you said, it's just sort of one of those fundamental basics to kind of getting going. We've covered a lot here in a short period of time about, calling ducks and how to be effective doing it and stuff like that. And I want you to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you've got going on, because, we follow you on, Facebook and Instagram, and, a lot of the stuff that you got going online. And, we've met at shows and stuff in the past. And obviously you're involved with Black Timber Custom Calls, so we'd like you to talk about that. And then also you've got your project that you're working on, Freestyle Outdoors Productions, where you've got some great photography and video stuff going on. So talk about that a little bit, so that the guys listening to the show can go and check you out when they get done.
Well, yeah, Black Timber Custom Calls, that started up in 2009. That was my baby, and I ran that till 2012, and then I took a job with Lynchmont Calls. It's a larger call company. And I worked full-time for them until earlier in 2014, about August. And then I decided to move back home. And when I moved back home, I took over managing Black Timber Calls. My dad's the owner now. I had sold it to him when I moved out to work for LMC. Then I took over managing it, and I do a majority of the call turning. I do all the call tuning. And we try to make a variety of calls. We make lower cost, easy to blow duck and goose calls. We make some medium cost, like $80 to $90 range, wooden hand turned duck calls, all single reeds, and then our molded calls are doubles and singles, and then we make some higher end acrylics and custom hand turned wood goose and duck calls. So we try to have a little bit of something for everybody, and we try to make our calls real easy to use, user friendly, but to have the most realistic and lifelike sound that we can possibly produce. And we have several different designs of duck calls. We have several different designs of goose calls, trying to fit everybody's need, sound wise, operational wise, whatever you can think of, we're trying to fit everybody. And if we don't have it, we can work with you to try and get something to fit your needs. That's the joy of having a custom call maker that can do everything by hand. Where
do guys go to find your stuff, and how do they contact you if they're interested in a Black Timber call?
Well, we have a fairly active presence on Facebook. We just started an Instagram account where we mostly just post pictures, of fan pictures of our calls, pictures that we take while we're hunting. The best way to contact us is either through Facebook or on our email, which is blacktimbercallco. So blacktimbercallco @gmail.com. We're working on our website, which is blacktimbercalls.com. Currently it's down right now for updates. But we are working on it and hope to have it in the online store up very soon. And that's the best way to get in contact with us right now is through Facebook and the email address that I gave. And my personal Facebook is another way to get in touch with us, Trevor Michael Shannahan. But right now, that's the best way to get in contact with us until the site's up.
Awesome. And that email again is blacktimbercallco@gmail.com, right?
Correct.
All right, cool. Tell us a little bit about your freestyle outdoors productions. We're big on photography and enjoy, taking pictures and making videos and that kind of stuff. And a lot of guys, like doing that. Your stuff's a little bit different level, I think, judging by some of the gear and stuff that I see in your Instagram pictures. But tell us a little bit about what you got going on there.
Well, freestyle outdoors started as purely me in my apartment with a cell phone or a little point and shoot camera doing duck and goose call tutorials, and just giving free videos on just teaching people how to blow a duck and goose call note by note. I went over quacks, I went over hail calls, I went over breeding calls, I went over feed calls, honks, clucks, fixed it, whatever note you want to know. I did it on YouTube and put it out there for free for everybody to, just give a free resource. Wasn't anything professionally done or anything. It was just a free resource for everybody to go and try and help them to learn how to blow a call a little bit better. You still had to put the practice in, but it was a resource to hear how it was done, hear what it was supposed to sound like, and to give that to people. Well, when I went out to LMC, I ended up having to learn how to film. Well, when I learned how to film, I wanted to learn more. And I started learning how to use DSLRs and, how to use DSLRs to film, to take pictures and everything. And, I bought my first Canon about 2 years ago, and it was a little T3i. And I started filming with it, started taking pictures with it, and it just kind of grew into where I love photography and I really enjoy filming. And when I moved home, I really decided to take it a lot more serious and go ahead and try to make it kind of a business. So I've been doing some filming gigs for a few different companies and selling some of my photography and everything. And, I've been upgrading equipment and whatnot. And it's really taken off, and it's really just a passion of mine that I enjoy doing, and, kind of using it to almost fund a hobby, of photography and everything. Just, I'm using it to fund my hobby, but, it's just a passion of mine. I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy helping others, using it. So.
Awesome. Well, I can tell you that, Dan and myself and our marketing guy, Tim Nebel, just put a bunch of pictures up of us down at the shore and stuff. And, I agree with you. It's one of those things. It's a lot of fun once you get into it. And it's one of those things where it gets to the point where, it starts to impact the hunt. We're like, well, don't take the shot. We don't got in the frame, or, that kind of thing. So I find that sometimes it even makes it hard to get hunting, because we want to capture those moments and get those videos and all that kind of stuff. But, you definitely put out a great product, and we're looking forward to, seeing more stuff from Freestyle Outdoors in the future.
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan. Go ahead, bud.
Trevor, I'm going to put you on a spot here. This is coming out Monday. From following you on Facebook, I'm pretty sure you're not a Ravens fan. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So, Seahawks or Patriots? Who are you going with?
Patriots 27-24.
Ooh.
Oh, you heard it here first, people.
The Super Bowl is 5-3.
I totally had you as a Legion of Boom guy.
Oh no.
Little beast mode. I wasn't sure if he was on a beast mode train or not.
Oh no, I've been Patriots since '98, man.
Oh wow.
Oh, all right. Long time there.
Awesome.
Oh, I was a Patriots fan before Brady.
Back in the struggle days, right?
Man, yeah, man. I tell you what, they went to the Super Bowl 97, 98, something. They went to the Super Bowl with Bledsoe, but it was, there was some struggle years in there too.
Yeah. Some lean years, but they've been making hay here for a while. So,
can't complain about it.
For sure. Well, best of luck to you then on Sunday, and we really appreciate you giving us some time here and talking about duck calling with us. And we encourage everybody to check not only you but Black Timber Custom Calls out on Facebook, Instagram. Again, their email, if you want to reach out to them, is blacktimbercallco@gmail.com, and or you can reach out to Trevor Michael Shannahan on Facebook directly if you want to talk to him about getting you set up with the call, duck or goose. Trevor, again, we thank you for your time. We appreciate you shedding some light on this for us, and best of luck moving forward. And we'll definitely be keeping up with you as we hope you're going to continue on the contest trail, and we can see more from you there in the future, right?
Oh yeah, hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. Myself and Black Timber Calls will be in Burlington, Iowa, on the contest trail. We'll have a booth at the Mississippi Valley Callers Association Calling Classic on February 7th in Burlington, Iowa.
There you go.
So there's maybe some of your listeners are from Iowa, and they can go out and check us out there.
Yep, absolutely. If you guys are in the area, stop by, check Trevor out, let him know that you heard about him on our show, and get yourself set up with the call. All right, man, we appreciate it. Take care, and best of luck to you.
All right, thank you.
We'd like to thank Trevor for joining us on the show, and we appreciate him giving us the time and the insight that he did. And before we go any further, Dan, would you like to ask me what I think is more important, calling or motion? Or did you get that out of your system?
Yeah, what do you think is more important?
I think it's probably motion, Dan. I think that's been about every answer that we've had.
I think I'm probably going to keep asking it because I don't know. I'm just infatuated with it.
You might as well. It's your go-to. I mean, it's your baby. But no, in all seriousness, I think there's a lot of good information that came out of that discussion. And, there's a lot of things with duck calling that there's basics that you use, whether it's, early season, late season, big flocks, small flocks, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that you can use and build off of very simple, kind of basic principles. So he touched on a lot of those things, but did you have any big takeaways from anything that he said that you kind of thought was interesting, or maybe you didn't know coming before you, talking to him?
Well, one thing that really stuck out to me, first of all, he had a call with him, which I didn't know he was going to pull that one out on us, but it was much appreciated. But one thing he didn't do was a hail call, which I thought, I thought that was everyone's go-to. I thought that's how you killed ducks, because every time I'm on private or not private, but public land, that's the only call that people make.
There's a lot of truth to that statement. I hear a lot of hail calls going on too, and I was shocked. Actually, I'm not very shocked at all that he didn't do it, but you're right. You do hear a lot of that when you're hunting public ground and that kind of thing. The thing that struck me the most that he said about in that interview was when he was talking about, the type of calling, and he said it's like, the difference between a finesse and a power caller. And he said, you're demanding, not asking. So it's having the confidence to get to that level where when you're calling to the duck, it's like, oh, hey, let me call at you and see if you'll come back here and take a look at my spread. It's, hey, I'm going to get on this call. I'm going to give you the business, and you're going to come back here and take a look. So I think that was awesome. And I think that what he talked about with calling on the corners and giving the birds enough space to work and room to drop into your spread so they don't have to circle multiple times. I think that's all just really good, savvy, duck hunting technique and skill that, probably a lot of guys don't even think about when they're just happy birds are working the spread and giving them a look. But, giving them that little extra time to get out there so that they can come back and drop down, it can make the big difference. So,
yeah, I mean, I was going to say, great tips, just if birds are coming straight at you, just, don't blow them out of the hole, like he said. Or, if it's a single and pair, kind of, get a little more personal with it and talk to them. Calm down.
The only thing I'm going to add to everything that he said, and I don't know if this is fact or what, this is just kind of how I feel about it. And if you don't agree with it, then that's fine and whatever. But I sort of have a thing with guys that call just to call, it's like they see birds in the air and then they just grab their call and they just start doing, using it. If you're calling and you don't know why you're calling or what you're trying to accomplish, you are doing it wrong. And you need to probably think a little bit more, and you're probably doing yourself more harm than you are good. So like he was talking about, when birds are coming at you versus when they're on the corners, and the type of call you're using and when you're going to use it. If you're not familiar with those basic principles, or you don't have the ability to execute those, you're probably better off spending time focusing on your concealment and your motion and, working birds that way. Because, like you said, you can go up and down the public land and hear hail call after hail call all day long. And those guys probably aren't killing ducks. So that's my 2 cents. Right or wrong, I don't know. That's how I feel about it. Anything else you got to say about calling to ducks and strategies and techniques?
No, it's ducks, geese, deer, elk. They have a language, and you can't just make random calls. It's funny because when we went out to Colorado in 2010, it was like, okay, I need to learn how to bugle and, get a cow call. Well, we found instructional DVDs, and the guy's name, Paul the Elk Nut, and he actually, Elk Nut, he's pretty cool. But anyways, he broke it down to what every single sound meant. So for guys that just went out there and bugled all the time, wanted to fight when a bull was just calling to see where his cows are at, that doesn't work. So, you can put that in duck calling, and, you're not trying to blow them out of holes, and they have language. So to realize that and try and master that, and it makes a huge, huge difference.
I'm pretty sure you just dropped like 3 Primo's advertisements in one little blurb there. So much speaking the language.
It is what it is.
I'm going to go Google Paul the Elk Nut just because I like his name. But no, what you're saying is right. Absolutely dead on. Right with you there. And, it's not hard. It just takes a little time, a little practice. And, the want to know, the will and the desire to know more about your bird that you're pursuing and that kind of stuff. So, I can assure you though, when you get a little bit of experience in that, and to work a set of birds on the corners and have them bank and come back and, drop in like Trevor was describing is a really great feeling. It's knowing that you had influenced the birds to do that is cool. And that's part of why, calling to ducks is so fun. So, make sure you guys, if you're interested in the stuff that Trevor's got going on, check him out. The email again for Black Timber Custom Calls is blacktimbercallco, blacktimbercallco@gmail.com. Check him out on Facebook, Instagram. You can check Trevor out in Facebook and all this stuff, and see what he's all about. Dan, anything else you would like to add for this week's program before we wrap it up?
Who are you picking for the Super Bowl?
Boy, I don't really have a vested interest, but the whole deflate gate bit and just all that stuff, I don't know. I never thought I'd really say it, but I'm probably going to pull for the Patriots just because I don't know. I don't like the whole Seattle thing with their Legion of Boom and their where they're always popping off and stuff. I like it. I'm more of a Belichick type of guy. Just show up to work, do your job, be good at it, and go home. So I'll probably pull for the Patriots, and but ultimately I don't have a true vesting interest in either team. What about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I think the Legion of Boom, I don't think they're booming much this year. They made it to the Super Bowl, but I I don't know. I do like Seattle's quarterback. I mean, he's a class act and fun to watch. And I tell you what really turned me off lately is the whole Marshawn Lynch thing, and just the way it just seems very ungrateful at all the press conferences. I mean, that's part of your job. You're an entertainer. Go and answer questions, and for that, I think I'll stick with Brady. I'm pulling for the Patriots.
Sounds like we align there. Well, yeah. Hopefully everybody enjoys the Super Bowl. It's always fun to, pull yourself out of bed Monday morning and go to work after a Super Bowl party and that kind of thing. But be safe out there, and enjoy the game. I honestly look forward to the commercials a little bit more than the game anymore these days. It makes me sound so old. It's weird. All right, man. Anything else before we put a bow on this episode with the parting shot?
I'd just say go check out Sport Ear. We talked about it, and if you haven't thought about it, you're listening to the podcast, and we hope you continue to, so we don't want you to lose your hearing, so go check them out.
I see what you did there.
You like that?
I see what you did
like
there.
that?
I like that. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this week's parting shot. All right, this week the parting shot is basically just a look forward to the spring. Obviously, it's a great time to get out and do some things that can kind of help for conservation in your area. Take a look at building wood duck boxes or reaching out to your local game commission and seeing if you can help with banding exercises or kind of habitat management they might have. A lot of these areas have been really deeply cut by budget cuts and restrictions at the state level. So, these guys can always use volunteers, an extra set of hands, even if it's going out and picking up trash or, helping plant fields or, like I said, banding, building wood duck boxes. There's always things that you can do. A lot of these places have public hunting opportunities that may need blinds to be rebuilt or brushed, that kind of stuff. Basically, at the end of the day, if you're not out there doing things to help improve the situation, you have no room to talk about not seeing ducks or not having success in the field. And waterfowl hunting and habitat management is a year-round activity. And if you don't do that starting, the day the season closes, when that season opens back up, you really don't have anything to say as far as lack of success or lack of bursting. So get out there and do your part. All right, that's going to do it for episode 23 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We'd like to thank Trevor Shannahan for joining us on the show, and we hope you guys enjoyed the Blue-Winged Teal profile. If you like what you hear, you can check us out on iTunes, check out all our past episodes, and leave us a 5-star rating and review if you're so inclined. You can reach us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at www.hpoutdoors.com or at info@hpoutdoors.com. We appreciate you guys listening to the show and all of your support. And until next time, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.